Hello, and today we're going to be reviewing the Ryobi RYi120AVNM 18 volt / 12 volt power source. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, starting off with the 18 volt battery connector. Now the 18 volt battery connector simply sits on top of the battery and, well, that's about it. It pops off incredibly easy, so if you are planning on moving the inverter while running it, there's a fairly decent chance that it could become disconnected from the battery, causing the inverter to lose power, so that's just something that you need to be aware of. The reason for this is because it doesn't securely clamp onto the battery, and this is to save money as well as space. I don't think it's that huge of an issue because most people aren't going to be using this while running or walking, but at the same time, I think Ryobi could have done a little bit more to have it fit securely onto the battery. But at the end of the day, it's not really that big of a deal. It just is more of an inconvenient thing. And coupled with another fact we'll go over later, it can be kind of annoying. But I am still glad they decided to give you the option of running it with an 18 volt battery as well as a 12 volt port. So it still is going to get a pass. This just needs some improvement in the future as far as I'm concerned. And next up we have the 12 volt power cable. The 12 volt power cable is about 30 inches long and it will provide a decent amount of power to the 120 watt inverter. Now the 120 watts is not all that powerful in an inverter, and they definitely gave you a beefy enough cable to be able to supply that amount of power to the inverter. Overall, the cable seems to be made out of a high quality material, and I don't have any real major complaints about it. It is a little bit on the stiff side, but that just means that it's made out of a good quality material because of how thick it is. So at the end of the day, this will get a pass, and it is a super useful way of being able to power the inverter and to be able to charge your 18 volt batteries, as long as you have an 18 volt battery charger with you. Okay, next up we have the power outlet, or the AC outlet. The AC outlet is a 120 watt outlet, and I think that's actually being generous. Overall, the outlet will provide enough power up to about 120 watts, but it's definitely struggling. You can tell just from the sound of the fan when I plug in the blower fan to this particular power source that it is struggling from just the amount of power that it's struggling to get to the blower fan, and the blower fan is consuming about 80 watts, so that's still about 40 watts short of the power rating. Now, I tested this with this particular power source and a duplicate that I also own, and it was about the same performance on each one. So I really think that this particular power source just is not actually living up to its 120 watt rating. So if you're looking to run something right at the 120 watt rating, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed. It does come in handy for running lightweight laptop computers and Chromebooks, tablets, that sort of thing, and charging up 18 volt power tool batteries on the go using a car cigarette lighter. But when it comes to high amperage or just running stuff at the 120 watt rating, you're probably going to be disappointed. Okay, next up we have the on-off switch. The on-off switch is a transparent push button style switch, and overall it's fairly easy to operate. You hold it for about 2 seconds to turn on the inverter, and then you hold it for another 2 seconds to turn off the inverter. The switch itself is made out of a transparent plastic, and there's an LED indicator light that will turn on to let you know what's currently going on with the inverter. If it's a solid green, that means it's operating the way that it should be, and if it comes on a solid red, that means that it's overloaded the device and you'll have to restart it. And if this occurs again, whatever you currently have plugged into it is drawing too much power, causing it to automatically overload and reset. So it's fairly simple. If it does come up with a flashing red light, that means it's either overheated or that a fault has occurred, and you'll have to restart it again. So that's just something else to keep in mind. Overall, it's a fairly simple switch, and I don't really have any major complaints, so it gets a pass. And next up we have the 2 USB ports. Now these ports are A-style USB ports, and I believe that it's an independent on each port of 2.4 amps, although I'm not 100% positive. It could be a shared 2.4 amp. But I was able to plug in 2 USB operated fans and run them at their maximum power, and they both seem to work at their maximum power just fine simultaneously. So I think there's a fairly decent chance that it could be 2.4 on both. But like I said, I'm not 100% sure on this. Overall, I am very happy with just the overall performance of the ports. I am a little bit disappointed that we didn't get a USB-C port, but other than that, these ports seem to be very strong. I don't think you're going to have to worry about them breaking, and quite frankly, they are perfectly satisfactory to me. So yeah, I think that's about it. Moving on. The power inverter without a battery, but using the 18-volt power connector, weighs 270 grams, which is a little over half a pound. And with a 4 amp hour battery, it weighs 972 grams, which is a little over 2 pounds. Okay, let's go through the pros and cons real quick. And the first pro is 12-volt option. Being able to run this with a 12-volt power source, aka your car cigarette lighter or power port, whatever you want to call it, or a Ryobi 18-volt battery, means that you'll have lots of different options for powering your devices remotely, and this is a pro in my opinion. 18-volt. 18-volt means that you'll be able to pick up batteries fairly cheaply to power this device, and if you want to, you can adapt batteries over from different brands. Just be aware of, if you are adapting batteries over from a different brand, that you need to check to see if the battery has built-in low voltage protection. If not, I wouldn't recommend doing it. 2 USBs! I am glad that Ryobi decided to give you 2 USBs. I am disappointed there is not a USB-C, but at least they still gave you 2 original USB-A style ports, so this is a pro in my opinion. Small! Overall, this is a very small tool, and that means that you'll be able to store it very easily, say inside a bag, inside your glove box, inside the center console, and it just won't take up that much room. And given the fact that you can also power it with an 18-volt battery and it still has a fairly small form factor, it is definitely a pro in my opinion. And next up, we have price. Price is definitely affordable on this particular tool, which is kind of weird in today's day and age. Overall, you can pick this device up for around $40 over at Home Depot, and you can pay about $24 over at Tool Direct, as long as you're planning on placing a larger order, because quite frankly you're still going to have to pay about $14 in shipping, which pops it up to about the same price as Home Depot. So yeah, Home Depot probably is still your better bet if you're planning on buying this, and you won't have to wait around for Tool Direct's incredibly slow shipping. So overall, the price is definitely a pro in my opinion. Yeah, this really isn't a con, this really isn't a pro. I just think it takes a little bit too long to turn on, considering how easily the cap for the 18-volt battery pops off. So overall, this is not really a con, it's not really a pro, it's just kind of meh. And the first con is the 18-volt connector. The 18-volt connector works, it just doesn't sit on there as securely as I think it needs to. I really think that if you're in an environment where you might have lots of motion or vibration, there's a decent chance that the cap will come flying off, meaning that you'll lose power to whatever you're trying to power. So overall, I really think this is an area of the tool that needs some improvement in the future. And last but not least, modified sine wave. This is a modified sine wave inverter, which means it's not going to be as good as a pure sine wave inverter. Pure means that you would have gotten more out of your battery life, and it would have been better for running more sensitive electronics. But it's a modified, so that's just kind of a disappointment. So yeah, moving on. Okay, final thoughts on this particular inverter. Overall, this little inverter will come in handy for a variety of different situations. Everything from powering your electronics on a mobile road trip or just a camping adventure, or maybe tailgating, to running your router during a power outage. And quite frankly, that's actually why I bought this particular tool. Well, I actually bought 2 of these tools, to run the router and a small laptop computer. So overall, I am very happy with just the overall performance of this particular tool so far, and I think it will come in handy for a variety of different situations. And it is fairly affordable, so as long as you know what you're getting into and you know that this isn't going to power your refrigerator or an oven or anything, I would highly recommend this. So yeah, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. God bless.